tangible has actually been done by the government, while the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institution (NASU) and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities (SANU) from the universities and the polytechnics and colleges of education unions also got frustrated with government's delay tactics and joined the fray. So let's get your view on the strangulating tertiary education in Nigeria. Over to you, Dr. Daniel.
Yes, you recall that since the president came into office, his attitude to tertiary education has been very abysmal. Take a look at the budgetary provision for education from 2012 to 2015 and do a comparison of 2016 till date. You realize that there is a gradual reduction on the budgetary allocation to education. Once you stop funding education, the result of what you're going to get will be very poor. This is because you need money to improve your infrastructure, you need money to develop a new curricula, you need money to do collaboration, you need money for research, you need money for travels, for conferences and all of that. So where funding is not readily available, the reality is that all of this will not be done. So what you find is that state authorities are more interested in frivolities than developing the capacity of the nation to make progress. Look, it is when we invest in education that we can get cutting-edge research output that can help in driving solutions or finding solutions to our basic problems. But here, what we have succeeded in doing is that you are saying that education is no longer necessary, that you can weevil out of the cobweb of our societal ills without education. Until we get to the point where we realize that education is transformative, education is an empowerment, education brings sanity to a society, it helps in development agenda. We will continue on this strategic end about our educational system. So the reality of what they are doing is that they have removed every known available source of funding for tertiary education and education generally. You travel to many states, it's not only peculiar to the federal government, even in many states, primary schools are almost gone. In typical villages, you have a situation where in a village that has only a primary school, today you have just one single teacher. And it's a common phenomenon in many states in Nigeria. And you ask yourself, what exactly is going on? Are these people not thinking at all? These are same men and women who attended public primary and secondary and university education provided by the white men. But what we have seen now is that the African man, in a bid to satisfy his self-greed, is not interested in the greed of his fellow brother. This is why we have come to this state. Because the humongous amount of money government officials are stealing every day that could have added value to our educational system. This is the reality of our system. This is the state of things. So what you get is that the teacher gets to school feeling very frustrated. Let me give you a scenario. In many higher institutions today, what vice chancellors are thinking about is issues about IGR. IGR simply means internally generated revenue.
Yeah.
So what they are doing now is that a department that has a carrying capacity for 50 students, they are ready to take 200 because government will tell them the way and manner you source resources to take care of your needs is your headache. So if you have 200 students in a class that is supposed to be for 50, what will be the output of the teacher or the lecturer? This is the state of things. So we are really not serious about education. And this government in particular is paying lip service to education. Look at this ongoing strike.
Yeah.
2 years ago, the government set up what they call the Professor Muzaili Jubril Committee to negotiate with ASUU. That committee came up with a report and submitted to government. Because government was not ready to implement that report, They discarded it. It was that issue that gave birth to this this February strike that took place. Government, okay, realizing that ASUU has called a strike again, decided to set up another committee to renegotiate the agreement on the ground that the 2009 agreement and the memorandum of action reached in 2017, 2018, and 2020 cannot be implemented. This committee, led by Mimi Briggs, negotiated with the unions and submitted the same report to government. And the rather unfortunate thing that Buhari will say in the Salah visit of the APC governor to his country home was that enough is enough. The question we should ask now is, enough is enough for who? On the part of ASUU or the part of government that keeps reneging on even simple agreement, on even simple arrangement that they make by themselves. This is a sad thing about our country's development. So
go ahead, I'm listening.
The result is what you are getting now. Frustration everywhere. I just imagine the number of families who depend on those who work in the university system to survive. I imagine those who do businesses on campus, in the different campuses, where they depend solely on businesses from this environment to survive, and the schools are shut down. Those families, you imagine how they are feeling. So we are not a serious people. If we are a serious people, we will take deliberate steps to force the government to do the needful. But it's like we have our hands akimbo, waiting for somebody to come and do the change for us. The institutions will remain locked, because for the workers to take this position, you realize that it has gotten to a neck point where you ask yourself, you can no longer breathe, as George Floyd will say. This is the state of university education. So whether in terms of infrastructure, in terms of administration, everything is on its lowest ebb. How did we get to this sorry state? Those who ought to provide leadership, they failed woefully. University systems are governed by governing council members. And ideally, you are supposed to select the best of technocrats, men who have worked in different capacity, who have capacity to provide a policy direction for universities to be council members. You know what they have turned council members to? They told them they are politicians, and that those who contested elections and lost, and they now make them council members. So when they come into the system, it is what they want to get from the system they are interested in, not how they can improve it. Well, that is what we do in Nigeria. In selecting leadership persons into leadership, in terms of selection of vice chancellors and all the rest, they throw it open for the highest bidders. So the highest bidders pay and get this position. And because they save humongous amount of money in bribing them to get such positions, we cannot find a headway. So people are interested in lining their pockets. People are interested in improving their laws rather than improving the system. So even when you raise outcry, because the system is so structured that you cannot force your way to effect it within the system, you just sit down like a lame dog, watching helplessly while the enemy comes in to loot the master's goods.
Well, quite sad.
This is the state of university education in Nigeria.
If you recall, I started out by saying that today we're talking about strangulating tertiary education, and you brought up George Floyd when he says, "I can breathe." I think that Nigerians collectively, students and parents alike, we really can breathe with everything happening in the education sector. We really don't want to even delve into the budget for education. However, on the 5th of July, ASUU raises hopes and gives condition to immediately call off strike. Professor Emmanuel Osadedoke, ASUU president, challenged the federal government to accept the University Transparency and Accountability Solution, that's the UTAS payment platform, for it to call off the ongoing strike. And he also says that we challenge the government. When would they sign the agreement? When would they accept UTAS? These are the two questions we should ask Nigerian government. Let the government tell us they have finished testing the U-test and signed the agreement, then tomorrow we will call off the strike. That was on the 5th of July. However, lots of Nigerians, lots of people really know little or nothing about the U-test and the IPPIS system. So let's talk about that briefly.
Okay, what gave birth to UTAS is the failure of IPPIS. Yes, IPPIS is an integrated payment platform where salaries, allowances of workers in tertiary institutions, even the public service at the federal level, are paid from a single source. This is where the university unions took exception to the payment platform. The way the university system are structured is different from the civil service structure. For instance, if you are promoted from one level to the other in the university system, especially among academics, for those at the from senior at the professorial level, associate professor and professor, before your promotion can take effect, you submit your papers. They will send your papers to external assessors in other schools and outside Nigeria. When those assessors return your report, it is then the council can announce, approve your promotion. The vice chancellor will announce your promotion in Senate. Now, this procedure takes a time. For instance, it can begin in some schools. It begins from July, and it will eventually take effect from October. This is where the challenge is, because some of these assessors will not send the report on time. When the report are eventually sent, what you find is that it would have entered into the new year before these reports will come. When it is actually announced, it will take effect from the previous years. As IPs tells you, it does not recognize backlog of salaries or backlog of arrears. IPs speak of the moment. Two, if there is a shortfall in the payment of your salaries or allowances, before you can rectify it, you will write some takes upward of 6 months, some 10 months. I have a professor colleague or friend who went to do his sabbatical in another federal university, and because it was any salary in that federal university, IP stopped his salary in his own university. When he ended his sabbatical, came back, waiting to get his salary, because that is his right, IPs refused to pay. So for 13 months, the man has been waiting without salary.
Oh.
So this is one of the challenges with IPs. Those guys in the office model people's salary up, and when you raise complaint, before they can even pay you back that money, you would have spent 1 year waiting. When you needed the money most, you cannot get it. And they will be paying you the small amount they paid you the last time until it is eventually rectified. These are some of the challenges and the unions in the university identify with IPs as a payment platform, which is not what the civil service, those in the civil service benefit from. So then the ASUU decided that this payment platform was not created by Nigerians. It was imported into the country. It was not tested. So the union decided to develop a software that can address the peculiarities of the Nigerian university system. That is why they came up with, ASUU came up with UTAS. Now, when they did all the tests, you recall that NITTDA told us that the test scored 70. They were all lying about those figures. The reality is that it scored 99.7%. But they insisted that it must be 100. ASUU said, okay, we'll work on the 100. That is what ASUU has done. Instead of them to come up with a clear verdict that UTAS is of quality, government has been playing game with you, because you know why? IPs is a source of corruption in the political space. With IPs, a government official can put a relation on the payment platform without going to the university system to seek for formal appointment. So all they need to do is to tell the vice chancellor, we have added 10 staff to your list, so they are now your staff. And that is not how the university system works. Another reason why UTAS was developed is based on the fact that In the university system, there are persons that can come from outside Nigeria or sister university to do research for a short period for your university.
Yeah.
Say for 6 months, say for 1 year. He or she may not be a permanent staff, but he or she needs to be paid. But our system is saying no. The government said no. Every payment must be from the center. So ASUU said, okay, in such situations, what do you do? Since the university don't have power to pay wages directly. So the feeling is that with UTAS, you can accommodate such short-term researchers who come into your system. Government is running away from all of this because those who benefit from IPs and this bogus corruption are looking for every possible means to silence UTAS. This is why when UTAS pass through all the processes, the documentations and the necessary papers that came from ITDA are all with ASUU, and even the ITDA officials have them. But because they don't want to come home to the truth, government officials will always protect the interests of those in government, as they get sacked or fired. This is the reason why we are at this stage in our development.
Well,
now, the president saw merit in this argument when he ordered that general, the other payment platform used by the federal government, IPs and UTAS, and even the ones developed by SADO should be tested. This is over 6 weeks, over 2 months, when this instruction was given by the president. We have not heard report about the transparency associated with IPs. We have not heard the report from other payment platforms used by government. So if you ask me, government is not sincere in all of this. We have institutionalized corruption in Nigeria to the point that our sense of humanity, our conscience appears dead. And if our consciences are dead, the result is that people behave like animals, thinking they are human beings. This is the result. This is the reality.
Okay. Well, still on the strike issue, on the 8th of July, the federal government breaks ASUU's rank, plans to release withheld salaries of medical lecturers. The federal government has started processing the withheld salaries of some medical lecturers in various federal universities who opted out of the ongoing strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. These withheld salaries were between March to June 2022. According to the source, the approval was granted because the medical lecturers hearkened to plea by the federal government and well-meaning Nigerians for ASUU to stay on duty while negotiating with the federal government. But students and parents lament long and prolonged ASUU strike and demand Adamu's sack. Worried by the continuous strike by the university teachers, aggrieved students and parents and stakeholders have called for the sack of the education minister. They queried Adamu's role in the negotiation process since the Academic Staff Union of the Universities, ASUU, commenced on February 14. So let's get into Adamu's contribution towards the prolonged strike.
Well, let's not look at the background of Adamu. Adamu is an accountant by training, and in his bid to support Buhari, he became a columnist in one of these newspapers. I was writing about the ideal educational system. It was on the basis of his write-up on what an ideal educational system should be that Buhari appointed him to be the Minister of Education. Let us look at what he has done since the strike started. You recall that when the strike started, Adamu told the world that he was not aware that the unions were on strike. That was the first statement Adamu made. And even when the Minister of Labour was trying to negotiate with ASUU, Adamu never got involved. It was when the pressure was getting serious and people started asking, where is the Minister of Education? Because the then Minister of State Education had good on several fora. People condemned his action and felt he was not the substantive Minister of Education and not in a position to speak authoritatively on some of those issues. It was there that Adamu came from nowhere when National Association of Nigerian Students paid him a visit in Abuja. Remember the altercation that transpired between them. It was thereafter that Adamu decided to respond by saying that he wants to take charge. What would have asked him in the first place? Usually, before strikes are called, the unions would have written to the Ministry of Labor and the Minister of Education detailing what their grievances are. We should ask Adamu, was there a time he sat the union down and presented the books before the union and said, this is the way we should go? He failed in all of this. So it's still a question of leadership in the Nigeria political milieu. We have a situation where square pegs are put in round holes. So when you have such a situation, you're going to get very bad results. I've told you that in our system, we reward people not because of their competence or their capacity to deliver, but based on other considerations, which will not help our development as a people. Adamu, as Minister of Education, has failed woefully. It's a shame of what it means to be a Minister of Education. Do you blame him? His principal is standing aloof, not bothered. Rather, his issue threat is enough. As if he's in a military command. We are not going to accept such because the reality of our system calls for the building of institutions that will last, the building of institutions that will stand the test of time. This is what they must go back to. If we must have a system that works for all, both for the academics, the non-academic staff, parents, and the students themselves.
Yeah, I agree completely with you on that one. It's still the point of view right here on Omega 101.7 FM, my radio, your radio. I've been on the phone conversation with Dr. Daniel. He's a senior lecturer at the UNIBEN, the University of Benin. And we're still looking at the strangulating tertiary education in Nigeria. We understand our president actually, well, some persons call it an emotional blackmail, basically, when he said he made the statement on enough is enough and all of that, and the statements that also preceded and statements that came afterwards. But moving up, we have the likes of Femi Falana reacting also to the statement enough being made by the president. Well, he claims according to Femi Falana, he's saying that even though 443 billion naira was spent on the importation of fuel from January to June 2022, the National Assembly has approved 4 trillion naira for the same products from July to December 2022 due to the comatose status of the nation's refineries. The federal government has also made available 100 billion naira for revamping the textile industry, 850 billion naira for rice production, 250 billion naira for auto gas vehicle conversion, and 228 billion naira for school feeding program. Apart from its annual budget of 40 billion naira, the Independent National Electoral Commission has received 100 billion naira as the first tranche of the 2022 budget to conduct the 2023 general elections. A government that can afford to spend trillions of naira on the aforesaid projects cannot afford to ignore the funding of higher education. Therefore, the federal government should adopt concrete measures to end the ASUU strike without any further delay, as he is saying that the federal government, President Buhari, should urgently submit a supplementary budget to the National Assembly for the appropriation of the sum of 200 billion naira required to revamp the federal universities. What's your take on the statement by Femi Falana?
Femi Falana has always been pro-masses. He understands the politics of our society and the politics of our development. The facts are there, and they are very obvious. If government could spend this humongous amount of money on these different areas, why not education? A government, you heard about the school feeding program, 250 billion.
Yes.
If that, are they feeding children in your community? Are they feeding children in your locality? Who are the beneficiaries? It's another effort by those in authorities to spend money on frivolities. Look, I said earlier, education is the foundation of any society. If you get it right, you get many things right.
True.
So, when government pays lip service to education, and they are ready to ensure that the elections are held as at when due because they don't want the democratic schemes to lapse. It tells you that their mind is not in education. If their mind is in education, deliberate effort will be made to give the same level of attention to this issue as they have done in other areas mentioned.
Yes.
But what we find is that their children are not in Nigeria, they're not school in Nigeria.
True.
Their children attend the best of schools, portion of the money stolen from us. So why should they be bothered? Whether schools work here or they don't work, they can afford it. That is the reason why education is not a priority for many of those in government. So I tell you solemnly, as Falana has said, the government that has spent this enormous amount of money in other areas cannot afford to neglect education. So the man who is in charge of affairs, is he bothered about our educational system? After all, the children have their degrees outside Nigeria. Why should we bother about education in Nigeria? This is why we are where we are. We need to pressurize government to do the needful. Look, the other day, during the invasion of Ukraine, because their children are the ones schooling in Ukraine, almost about 8 billion was released for them to be evacuated from Ukraine. 2, when airlines were threatening to go on strike, the same government took immediate measures to salvage the situation because they don't travel by road, they fly the airways. So, because that is an area that concerns them, actions were taken. Education does not concern them. Public investing is not their business. At least they can afford private education as you can see in the growing interest in private universities in Nigeria. But the children of the common man and the average man who cannot afford the high cost of private tertiary education or even primary school education, the reality is that they are helpless. This is where we are.
Yeah.
Government must do the needful.
They really must. Well, it's 9:31. We'll go on a quick break. I've been having this conversation on strangulating tertiary education in Nigeria with Dr. Daniel Eherafo, senior lecturer, mass communication, UNIBEN. We'll go on a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get the listener contribute on the phase of our education sector, strangulating tertiary education, basically, in Nigeria. We also have a Super Eagle striker that actually made a comment, but that would come up after this break. So stay here. When I get back, the phone lines will be open. You can follow us on social media, our social media pages of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouSocial, YouTube. Yes, it's at Omega 101.7 FM. The conversation is up. To be part of it, of course, send across your comments and your questions and contributions. I'll be back after this break.
Some part of the conversation, dial 081-5101-7777 and 090-7112-1017. Please make your submissions known in a civilized manner. Put off emotional and all ethno-religious sentiments. Make verifiable claims on this platform. Respect the views of other callers, and 2 minutes is given to every caller. Each person is entitled to only one call to enable others to participate. Point of view, airing your views for the transformation of our society.
All right, right, welcome back. It's still the point of view right here on Omega 101.7 FM, Matt Radio, your radio. We're looking at strangulating tertiary education in Nigeria. Like I stated earlier, we are live on Facebook. And I take this comment before I get back to my guest. I've been sharing vocal duties with Dr. Daniel, a senior lecturer at the UNIBEN, the Mass Comm department. All right, this one here from Nwokihe Guinea Kachukwu, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, is saying that I'm chatting from Isiawa, also local government area of Imo State. ASUU strike seems like a norm in Nigeria now, but we are all architecture of it, both parents, students, and lecturers. Parents will vote the wrong leaders. Students will work as POs during election and accept bribe from wrong leaders, and lecturers as returning officers will be induced with money from wrong leaders. And at this juncture, things will all fall apart. Another measure to quench the momentous, or what was the monotorious strike in our tertiary education is by enacting a law that the children of our leaders must school in Nigeria. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. 0815-1017-777 or 0907-112-1017. We have also Ndiawa reacting here. He's saying ASUU strike is still lingering because we have leaders that don't believe in education in the country. And why should they, when their children are schooling abroad in well-established schools? Our leaders are just paying lip service to education, which ought to be number one priority in the scheme of things. This is what to be expected when some governors prefer to wear 455 million naira wristwatches and pay 100 million naira for mere forms at the expense of education. For them, ASUU can stay on strike for 10 years. Do they really care? It's left for the masses to wail and grieve over the unfortunate predicament. Was MC India actually sent that one. 0815-1017-777, strangulating tertiary education in Nigeria. Well, recall on the 11th of July, like some 2 days ago, our president in Daura, Katsina State, revisited the issue of the prolonged strike, which has left students at home for months, telling leaders of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, that enough is enough. The president noted that the future of the country rests on the quality of educational institutions and education, while assuring that the government understands the opposition. In his words, he says, "We hope that ASUU will sympathize with the people on the prolonged strike. Truly, enough is enough for keeping students at home." Just as my guest said, he spoke as though he was in the military barracks. And he's saying that don't hurt the next generation, for goodness sake. But we'll start with the present generation, if you ask me. And further speaking, the president called on all well-meaning Nigerians. He called on you and I, particularly those close to the leaders and members of the association, to intervene in persuading the lecturers. We should persuade the lecturers to reconsider their position and the ripple effect on an entire generation and their nation. However, we have someone, Ahmed Musa, also commenting on the prolonged strike, as he also stated, he asked in pidgin English, rather, in the pidgin language. He says, "Ino de tochona," Ahmed Musa tackles politicians over ASUU strike. Super Eagle striker Ahmed Musa has criticized politicians who celebrate sending their children abroad while universities remain shut due to academic strike. In a comment on his verified Instagram page, he noted that such politicians are running a system they don't believe in. And to our political office holders whose children school abroad, how do you feel visiting your children abroad, taking pictures in their schools, and posting online while ASUU is on strike? He wrote. Like, seriously, continuing, he says, how is it okay to you? You are running a system that you do not believe even in. Show me one Oyibo leader whose child is schooling in Nigeria. You know they touch on her. And when you return, Nigerian youth will still gather and sing praises for honor. Over to you, my guest, Dr. Daniel. What do you make of the statement by the Super Eagle striker?
You know, when you get striking, where people are so polarized and dehumanized, camera becomes a team of celebration for separate society.
Mm.
The reason why politicians keep doing this is that they have succeeded in destroying our socioeconomic life. People don't have the capacity to do it. They have to get 10 naira, 20 naira from this politician. They celebrate them. I will not agree less with Ahmed Musa, the Super Eagles captain.
Yeah.
We are friends. He understands the cry of the common on the street.
Mm.
Really, let us ask ourselves this question. If you travel outside the shores of this country and you enter into a United campus outside, how do you really feel?
Mm.
Because of the beauty of the place, because of the standard set in these places, our leaders want their children to go there. So that when they come back, they will present their CVs as having the best TV. They in quotes, infuse them with knowledge that they are more exposed. This is the thinking. So the only way the elite, the political class, can sustain their hold over the affairs of this society is to give the best to their children, while majority languish in poverty and every form of inequality. But if our educational system is of the same standard as what you have abroad, when their children come with their certificate and there is a competitive exam, they will never beat up. They will never be the children that are here because they are exposed to the best of learning. They don't want this. Look at the way they recruit their people into some of the lucrative agencies like NNPC, CBN, and all the rest. There is no competitive bidding. They give it to their children. Appointments are given. They say they have foreign education. And that is why there is a mad rush to go abroad for further education. With the belief that when you come back with your certificate, you will have an edge over the man who had his education here. Who created this disparity? Who is sustaining this disparity? It is the same government. They are the same set of people. I told you in the last conversation I had on this platform that there is an elite capture, or what you call state capture. State capture is a situation where a few group of people corner the resources of the state to their advantage for themselves, their family, and close associates. These are the men who have hijacked everything about this country. They don't want education work with the mind that their investment in private universities can thrive. Those who have average income, who can pay this bill, will begin to send their children to those schools. What of the millions? What of the millions who don't have this capacity to afford such education? It is good that the schools to be shut down.
Mm.
It is true that people are saying that ASUU should consider. Let me give you a scenario. If you were earning 100,000, 2009, as of 2009, you can afford a motorbike because motorbike then was 70,000. But as we speak, for you to get a motorbike, you will need about 500 to 600,000 to buy a brand new motorbike. The implication is that the man who works in the public university, who has been earning the same 100,000 since 2009, will have to work for 6 months, not spending a damn out of it before he can afford a motorbike, which he could have afford to buy in 2009 and even have 20,000 naira left. This is the crux of the issue. Lecturers have children. They have families they take care of. And they have been earning the same salary. They go to the same market like others. They have been earning the same salary since 2009. Our current inflation is about 18%, 15 to 18%. If this figure is true and the reality bites on everybody, do you want the lecturers to die because they are called to serve humanity? Why would the politician make sacrifices and the president will come out and to say the lecturers should be considered? It is government that is not reconsidering. They have billions to spend on buying election forms. They have billions to waste on frivolities. But they cannot put that same amount of money on education. Nigerians need to pressurize the government, not the lecturers. It is only through that that we have a fair system. Lecturers are dying, they cannot afford good health care. Because if you go to the hospital, you pay. There is no privilege attached. And because they are not benefiting anything, it comes to a point where they need to fight for their own survival. That is why there is an indifference to this. I tell even in the negotiated agreement, ASUU has made a lot of concession to government. With the mind that with this concession, government will look at the issues and address the issues. The government is not picking in this light. This is where we are.
Well,
and it's very unfortunate.
It really is. We're at a crossroad right now because it appears I don't see ASUU in any time. I really don't envisage a compromise by ASUU because the ASUU president said their demands are in the interest of the Nigerian students who are learning under unconducive environments. He also cited, he says, go to Ghana, there or South Africa and see if you can compare them. That is our struggle. We call ourselves the giant of Africa. We are simply waiting for government to sign the agreement. Once it is done, we will call off the strike. Of course, ASUU had been at loggerheads with the federal government for over 3 years over its refusal to honor the 2009 agreement. We're going to get into that agreement briefly, as some of the demands in the agreement, of course, include the condition of service of university lecturers to be reviewed every 5 years. Issues of salaries and allowances, revitalization of public universities, university transparency accountability solution, and the alleged inconsistencies in the integrated payroll, which you spoke about extensively, and personnel information system payment platform, which government insists will be used to pay lecturers. Now, let's get back to the 2009 agreement. Over to you, Dr. Daniel.
Okay. Part of the content of the 2009 agreement is that government will set governing council, a visitation panel, I beg your pardon, to universities every 5 years. Government never did that until the last strike. It was the last strike that forced government to set up visitation panel to universities. This is the scenario. Somebody is managing your property. You don't bother to visit the property with the mind that the man is put as caretaker will deliver. The tenants who live in the house keep complaining to you about the state of affairs. Your caretaker comes to tell you, oh, the house is in order. Meanwhile, the tenants are complaining. If you are a good landlord, you will take time to visit your property.
True.
To see the state of things. In the 2009 agreement, ASUU agreed with government that every 5 years, set visitation panel. It will take care of the needs of the universities, the area of wastages, and how you can block some leakages. The government agreed. The 2009 agreement agreed that the standard number of students in the classroom for those in art and social sciences are 30. While those in sciences should be 15. Then we have a situation where we have 200 in one class, 250 in a class. In some cases, 400, 500 in a class. And the number of staff in these same schools are so small. So the agreement was that because we are operating above the excess, let government pay a 30 allowance for those who teach. On the part of the federal, some state universities are implementing this. On the part of the federal government refused to implement its own. It took the 2013 strike before government released a certain amount of money for the first payment. It is every strike that ASUU engages in that forces government to release a part of these allowances that is due to the lecturer. That is one side. The agreement also stipulates that every 5 years, considering the inflation in the country, government will review the salary and allowances of these academic staff and other workers in the university. Government don't want to talk about reviewing the allowances or even looking at it. Rather, what they did was to consolidate all allowances. In the civil service, a permanent secretary is entitled to 3 domestic staff. In the previous era, before the consolidation, a professor was entitled to some. But what the government did was that They took all these things away from the academic staff. We were entitled to research in the past. Lecturers were entitled to corporate sponsorship, publication sponsorship. They took all these things away and consolidated everything. So they pay you salary. You don't know what is your due allowance or what they pay you for. So, as soon as for a review of this agreement, let us negotiate it. Since we are not implementing it, let us make it clearer in view of the prevailing situations in the country. Like I said earlier, government set up the Professor Muzaili Jubril committee. That committee had discussions with ASUU and submitted a report. Instead of government to implement it, government discarded it. Only for them to come up with another committee this February led by Professor Mimi Briggs. Mimi Briggs met with ASUU, another union, and submitted their report. What ASUU expected government to have done was to sign this new agreement. That would be the basis for us to move forward. Maybe they are ready to go and they are not ready to implement, and the president is talking about enough is enough. But I wish people of this nature who are very deceptive and inconsistent in their approach to things. This is rather unfortunate and a disservice to the people they are called to serve.
All right. Well, let's join also Francis on Facebook. He actually responded and he's saying that good morning from here. The prolonged ASUU strike in this country is very unfortunate. Government should come out with a proactive measure towards tackling this ASUU impasse. Enough of all this. That reminds me of the president's statement. Enough is enough. May God help us. All right, moving away from that, before we get our guest on his final words, for Nigeria to continue to exist as a country, there is urgent need for total restructure and reorientation of educational system. For example, the engineering department of the University of Southern California has been manufacturing airplane for over 50 years. University of Northern Colorado for over 40 years has been sending their students on space programs out of space each year and so forth in Olu. That's quite a big hurdle. All right, this one here says, Kingsley Nibwe from Akata says, I am one of the many Nigerians that frown at the federal government to meet the agreement with ASUU. But he that believes that must go to equity must go with clean hands. If the ASUU hierarchy and its organization is holier than the federal government, I believe all this squabble must have ended long ago. A kettle need not call a pot black. My sister, option in every level of government and in every ministry and parastatal. I call for total regeneration starting from each individual. Let everyone do the right thing and at all time. We have yet okay, this message came twice. I really don't know what happened to the phone lines. It just kept coming in and going off. But finally, Dr. Daniel, as you wrap up on your thoughts and we wrap up the show, yes, 2 days ago, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule appealed to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU Nasarawa State University, KEFI chapter, to pull out from the ongoing national strike. Now, your final words. Do you foresee, do you envisage a compromise coming from ASUU, or are we just going to sit back and watch the federal government come up with seemingly proactive measures besides enough is enough?
If ASUU is going to compromise, the strike would have been done in the first instance. What I have told somebody is what I will repeat here. If this strike gets to September this year, it means the schools will not go until after the election.
Whoa. Tough. Okay. So that's where we are, obviously.
Yes, we know they are making deliberate effort to prescribe ASUU and all that. They have done it before in the days of the military. You see, government is not interested in people, organizations that call people to account. And ASUU has been demanding for a better system. The Facebook page you read says those who come to equity will come with clean hands.
Yes.
ASUU is not the manager of the university system. ASUU is not the one that releases budget. ASUU is not the one that constitutes a visitation panel. ASUU is a union of workers within the system. And because they work in the system, They want a system that works because they travel every now and then. 2020, before the corona virus strike, we had a conference in Cameroon. And when we got interacting with some of our friends in Cameroon, we got to realize that in Cameroon, the academic staff receive two types of grants. They receive what they call faculty grants and they receive what they call state grants. These are things they use to conduct research. These are the things they use to attend conferences in different parts of the world.
Okay.
But here, you do all of that on your own. And people are talking about ASUU recognizing. If they don't want us to have good education, if they want us to turn university education to cash and carry, so be it. The result is what you're going to get in the society. In the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, nothing will work anymore. Because the very foundation of what is supposed to make the society good, you don't want it to work. What will you be? What will the future hold for all of us as a people? We will continue on this path.
Well, all right. I say amen to that prayer. Honestly, this is where we are right now. Like, we need God to interfere. But some persons would say there's really nothing God will do at this point in time when he has put people in place that have decided not to do the right thing. Thank you very much, Dr. Danielle, Senior Lecturer, Mass Communication, Uniben, for doing this with me. We hope to see you as ASUU progresses, and we'll have more conversations on this platform.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And that's how much we can take on the platform today. Thank you very much for being there with us. The Point of View makes a return tomorrow. And tomorrow, we're having yet another conversation. We're looking into something else. My name is Dakul Sanami at 10:30. The time for the late Mega Morning Show, as Mimi would be up and several other programs lined up for you listening. This is Omega 101.7 FM, Ma Radio, Show Radio. Good morning.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are entirely those of the individuals and not of Omega 101.7 FM.